07. The prosthetic leg. The prosthetic leg was complete. I had worked through the night, terrified that Claria would wake up needing to relieve herself. Truthfully, it wouldn't have been finished if I hadn't discovered the toolbox, apparently meant for carriage maintenance. No, it wouldn't have been completed at all if even a single material had been missing. It was a masterpiece, one I was genuinely proud of. Nanom designed it, and I built it exactly to specification, down to the millimeter. Its construction was simple. The main components were a carriage suspension, a large elongated metal mug, horse tack, and a small vise from the toolbox. That was all. I bent the suspension into a K-shaped curve to absorb shock, then extended it straight upward to attach to the carriage. Without that shape, it wouldn't have worked. The material's hardness was miraculous, neither too stiff nor too soft. Even Nanom couldn't identify what it was made of. It wasn't metal or wood, but likely part of some living creature's body. Incredibly durable, its use as a suspension made perfect sense. The mug-like object resembled a champagne flute, its diameter gradually widening from base to rim. Remarkably, its opening matched Claria's calf exactly. I had already confirmed the measurement by zooming in from a distance. I used my laser gun to cut off the mug's handle and base, then welded it to the vise at a precise angle, also calculated by Nanom. I factored in Claria's body weight and the weight of her gear, rounded the tip of the suspension, and shaved it carefully to match the needed slope. Once the vise clamped the suspension in place, we were nearly done. Finally, I used the horse harness belt to secure the lower part of her leg to the cup so it wouldn't slip out. The idea was simple. Claria would place her leg into the metal cup and fasten it tightly with the belt. The selling point? The vise allowed for adjustable height. I was utterly exhausted. Dawn had already broken. As I debated whether to wake Claria, she stirred on her own. From here on, it would be a race against time. Claria's perspective. When I awoke, Alan Corinth, no, Lord Corinth, was already up. He approached me with a gleam of excitement and began presenting something odd. It looked like a ceremonial goblet of some sort. I couldn't make sense of it. He explained something, speaking earnestly, but of course I didn't understand a word. Then, with an air of impatience, he gently picked me up and sat me on a stack of luggage nearby. He wrapped layers of soft cloth around the stump of my leg. I didn't resist. I simply let him work. He then slipped my leg into the cup-like part of the strange device. Tilting his head, he muttered to himself, unwrapped and rewrapped the cloth, adjusting the fit again and again. Once he was satisfied, he used a belt to fasten the contraption to my leg. Then he took my right hand and gestured for me to stand. No way. He gently grabbed my shoulders and lifted me. My heart pounded. This can't be real. He observed my body's balance with focused eyes, then set me down again. More muttering, more adjustments. My heart had been racing since the moment I woke. Again, he helped me up. Again, he observed. This time, he smiled. Slowly, he pulled me forward. I took a cautious step. I stumbled, but Lord Corinth caught me. I had to lift my leg higher than usual. Step, step, step. There was an odd, squishy sensation when I put weight on it. Step, step, step. This can't be happening. Step, step, step. Lord Corinth let go of one hand and walked beside me. Step, step, step. We were dancing, almost. Step, step, step. He let go entirely. We walked side by side. Step, step, step. He stopped. And I walked around him on my own 2 feet. Step, step, step. Without realizing it, tears were streaming down my cheeks. Step, step, step. This is amazing, Lord Corinth. Step, step. I kept walking for nearly 10 minutes. When I finally stopped, I stumbled but regained my balance. Lord Corinth, this is incredible. I can't believe something like this is possible. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the joy. He smiled. I wanted to walk more, to laugh more, but I suddenly needed to relieve myself. Yesterday, Fal had always been at my side, handling such matters discreetly. I had never had to ask for help before. After some hesitation, I pointed toward the forest, then to myself, then to the forest again. Would he understand? Lord Corinth nodded, made a circle with his fingers, and gestured for me to wait. Then, grabbing a spear-like club, he dashed into the forest with astonishing speed. 3 or 4 minutes later, he returned, and nodded again. I blushed, picked up my small pouch, and headed toward the trees. Alan's perspective. Nanom, mission complete. Of course, it got an A+A rating. Understood. Claria's perspective. When I returned, Lord Corinth signaled that he was going to sleep. As expected, this wasn't something crafted in a few hours. He must have worked through the night for my sake. I was deeply humbled. He was about to sleep on the ground, so I urged him to take the blanket, his own after all. Truly, Lord Corinth was a nobleman through and through, kind, wise, and strong. Yes, strong. I hadn't fully realized it in the chaos of yesterday, but when Captain Antis and I were under attack, there had been more than 10 greyhounds, and now only Lord Corinth and I remained. He had defeated them all. It was my own foolishness that cost me my limbs. I had removed my greaves and arm guards out of annoyance. If I had worn them, I might have died anyway, my throat torn out like the others. There's no point in thinking about it now. Last night I couldn't sleep. I thought of my fallen comrades, my lost limbs, the life ahead, crippled, alone. Who would follow someone who couldn't even walk? But now I could. This leg meant I could walk again. I could endure. Yesterday was the worst day of my life, but by some twist of fate, I met Lord Corinth. I owed him yet another debt, and had yet to repay a single one. When he awakens, we must depart. I'll prepare everything. Will he come with me? 8:08. The escape. The luggage was packed, weapons secured. Nanom wanted to inspect Claria's wound, so I gestured for her to sit and began explaining with hand motions. I gently removed the prosthetic leg, then unwrapped the cloth and finally the bandage. A super thin, skin-like membrane had already formed over the wound. The flesh had swollen, the bone was no longer visible, but the translucent tissue still looked raw and unsettling. Does it hurt? Pain signals in the affected area have been blocked. The skin just above the wound, where the prosthetic rubbed, was red and inflamed. I'll need to improve how I wrap the cloth to prevent irritation. How long until it heals completely? Unknown. Recovery time depends heavily on nutrient and material intake. Of course, you can't rebuild flesh from nothing. Currently, other parts of the body are being metabolized to compensate. And if we had unlimited nutrients and materials, 3 weeks. If we focus solely on the leg, 2 weeks. Not bad at all. If I can heal anything, it should be the leg. Normally, the human body can only absorb a limited amount of nutrients per meal. Excess is excreted. But with Nanom's intervention, nearly all nutrients can be absorbed and stored. Using these reserves, Nanom can accelerate cell division and rapidly regenerate damaged tissue. What kind of ingredients do we need? Meat, potato-like tubers, sources of inorganic minerals, and vitamin-rich ingredients. Potato-like tubers? What even are those? I barely know the plants on this world. Looks like it's time for another foraging trip. Wait a second. If her leg regenerates down to the ankle, the current prosthetic won't fit anymore. Just imagining that gives me a headache. Can we design a new prosthetic? With current materials, only a simplified model is possible. Nanom displayed a virtual blueprint, a suspension belt attached support. It wouldn't hold much weight or maintain balance, barely usable for walking. At best, it might work for short bathroom trips. So we've avoided the worst-case scenario, barely. This means Cleria won't be able to walk long distances until she's healed. Have we secured the materials for the new prosthetic? Confirmed, all required parts are in the pack. Good, very good. I still don't know where we're headed, but depending on the journey, we may need to set up a base. I'll talk to Cleria about that later. For now, I rewrapped the wound and fitted the prosthetic again. Access Cleria's tactile feedback. What's the best way to wrap the cloth? Wrap, fit, unwrap, adjust, wrap again. After several iterations, I finally found a method that seemed to work. Next, her arm. It was in a similar state, the same skin-like membrane, healthy coloration, no obvious issues. Prioritize leg healing. Acknowledged. Cleria's perspective. After showing me his sword skills, Lord Corinth pointed to his blade and bowed. A gesture of thanks, I think. That's good. I'd worried I might have overstepped. Given his stature, I had assumed he'd have swords to spare. Maybe there was a deeper reason he hadn't used one until now. Next, he asked to examine my injury. I wanted to see it too. When I removed the prosthetic and unwrapped the bandage, what I saw took my breath away. A stump, yes, but not raw or bloodied. Skin had already formed. Tears welled up in my eyes. Lord Corinth looked concerned. Was something wrong? But instead of reacting in alarm, he simply adjusted the cloth wrapping again and again until he seemed satisfied. Then he gestured for me to stand. Amazing! Before, the prosthetic had chafed terribly. I thought that was just normal pain from an amputation. But now there was no pain. I could even bear some weight on it. Next, we looked at my arm. Like the leg, it had regenerated more than I ever imagined. This wasn't some common healing magic. This was something else entirely. Lord Corinth didn't seem surprised. He just rebandaged it, calm as ever. Then he knelt and drew a circle in the dirt. From there, he traced a line toward the path and marked an X at the end. He moved his finger slowly along the path, raising one finger at a time. He was asking how many days until we reached Catania. Yesterday, I'd estimated more than 20 days. I held up 5 fingers, repeating the gesture 4 times. He nodded thoughtfully. He seemed lost in thought again. Was something troubling him? Soon after, he handed me a meal, something wrapped in thin metal, like yesterday. Sweet, crunchy, and absolutely delicious. I devoured it instantly, manners forgotten. It was finally time to depart. I strapped on the remaining armor, what was left of my greaves and arm guards. The ones from my missing limbs, of course, had no use now. Lord Corinth saw them and started packing them into his bag. I told him several times they weren't needed, but he simply nodded and stored them anyway. He was stubborn, but thoughtful. Mithril, I suppose, does have value, but who would want a mismatched set of greaves and guards? With our bags packed, it was time to go. Alan's perspective. Finally, time to move. We've lingered here long enough. Cleria was stroking the neck of a dead horse, perhaps one she knew. I'm glad I hadn't butchered it for meat last night. I slipped my sword into my belt, hoisted my backpack, adjusted the side bags on my shoulders, rolled the blankets on top, and slung the rifle over my back. It was heavy, but manageable. Cleria had her own sword and shoulder bags, probably holding clothing and other essentials. All right, now's the time to get serious about learning the language. I'm tired of gestures. I pointed to myself, Alan, then at her, Cleria. I pointed at the overturned carriage. She replied, Kantar. So, Kantar means carriage. Nanum recorded the word. I'll collect more vocabulary as we traveled. Cleria would just have to put up with it for now. Highlight unidentified plants in red, edibles in blue. Suddenly, everything around me turned red. This is going to take a while. To reduce noise, I set it to notify me only when edible plants appeared. But the constant squirming notifications were almost worse. Oh, right, I never asked her age. Is that rude? Probably, but she's still young. I held up 2 fingers, then 5. 25.
Then I pointed at her. She held up one finger and stared at her missing left hand with a sad expression. Damn, that was thoughtless. After a pause, she formed a 7 with her fingers and smiled. 17 then, about what I expected. Oh, potato-like tubers, jackpot. I had a spare bag set aside just for these. Cleria needs them. I'll stock up. I asked for the name. Poto, she said. Suitable for consumption. Nice. Been a while since I got a new one. 2 hours into our journey, and finally something edible other than grass. I took a bite of a whitish stem-like plant. Not bad. Crunchy. Probably better cooked. I picked more, even if we ended up tossing the extras. It was nearing 3 p.m. We'd started late, so we'd need shelter in 2 hours tops. Something darted across the road. A wild boar, smaller than the one I'd taken down before. I raised my rifle and hesitated. No, this is a good chance. I wanted to save energy packs. Time to practice with the sword. The boar pawed the ground furiously, clearly riled up. No time to put down my gear. It charged. I sidestepped and slashed. One clean cut. Over. Seriously? That was it? Then 3 wolves emerged from the side. So they'd been chasing the boar. Even better. I locked onto the wolves, rifle ready if needed. Cleria was behind me. I had to keep them away from her. The first lunged. Big mistake. Like the boar, I dodged and slashed. Its head flew. The other 2 came at once. Too slow. I threw my electromagnetic blade at the one on the left, right through the throat. The last jumped, just like the first. I cut it down mid-air. I finished the one writhing with the knife still lodged in its neck. Underwhelming, honestly. Big dogs in the end. Cleria was staring at me with wide eyes. Yeah, okay, that was a bit much. But hey, meat. Dried meat was all we had before. This was a luxury. Time to butcher. Nana marked the choice cuts. I carved carefully. Even the sinews and organs? All right. We now had meat, veggies, salt, and cookware. This was going to be a feast. I dumped the wolves into the valley and moved on. Eventually, we reached a river. Oh yes, finally. Fresh water and maybe even a bath. I gestured to Cleria and she brightened immediately. We found a secluded spot by the water, a perfect clearing. Gentle current, a deep pool for bathing. I built a stove with nearby rocks while Cleria set out the dishes, working one-handed without complaint. We had 1 pot, 1 frying pan, a cutting board-like thing, and basic seasonings, salt, pepper, and herbs. Not many types, but more than enough for 2 people. Nanan had told me which meat to save. Belly, thigh, liver, sinew. Liver spoils fast. We'd eat it tonight. I bled the liver in the river, using rocks to make a small dam. While that soaked, I checked the fire. Cleria had already lit it. She really is thoughtful. We'd do yakiniku for the sinew, cut into thin strips for easier chewing. The main dish, stir-fried pork with veggies, poto and the stemmy cookie plant. Washing the veggies, I noticed movement in the river. A salmon-like fish had breached the liver dam and was thrashing around. Without thinking, I threw my knife. Got it. Half the liver was gone.
The base. Not long after we set off, Lord Corinth began asking me the names of various things. He must be trying to learn the language. It makes sense. Relying solely on gestures is too inconvenient. I wish I could learn his language too. He gestured at the leaves of various plants, picking them up, studying them. He seemed to be searching for edible ones. Then he suddenly pulled one out and began collecting it. That's a poto tuber. I've seen it served as a side dish, but I didn't know it grew underground. Lord Corinth looks about 25. He actually seems younger. I tried telling him my age, but since I don't have fingers, it was hard. Still, he guessed 17 with a gesture, so I nodded. I'm actually 16, 17 in 6 more months, but that's close enough. For some reason, I wanted him to see me as a little more grown up. Suddenly, a big boar burst out from the mountainside. This is bad. It's not that big, but it's clearly agitated. A boar like this is extremely dangerous. Lord Corinth stepped in front of me, sword in hand, and with a single fluid motion, cut it down. Effortlessly. I stood there in shock, only to see 3 greyhounds appear next. This is really bad. I'm in no shape to fight them. But Lord Corinth dispatched them just as easily. 2 of them decapitated in a single stroke each. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. He butchered the big boar on the spot, packed up the meat, and moved on as if nothing had happened. The greyhounds he tossed into the valley, not even bothering to take their magic stones. Then again, those aren't worth much anyway. When we reached the river, Lord Corinth gestured for us to head down. He must be looking for a place to spend the night. And food, yes. My body's felt strange since yesterday. A hunger deeper than usual. No doubt about it, I'm starving. He'd collected meat earlier, so tonight's dinner must be meat. Those silver-wrapped rations taste good, but the portions are tiny. Judging by the variety of meat he took, it looks like it'll be a feast. I can't wait. To my surprise, Lord Corinth is also a skilled cook. He went to work immediately, efficient and focused. I wish I could help somehow. That's right, I'll use magic to start the fire. He soaked some dark meat in the river. Was he bleeding it? Then, one by one, he sliced the rest. Watching him work, I could have mistaken him for a chef if I hadn't already seen him wield that sword. He walked to the river and, without warning, hurled a knife into the water. He caught a fish, a big one. So that's what the earlier meat was for. He filleted the fish in a flash. It's been ages since I had fish. Then he began cooking. He sliced bread thinly, seasoned the fish, and placed it on top. I thought he'd bake it, but no, that was the dish. Raw fish? Watching him eat, I hesitated, then took a cautious bite. Delicious! So this is what raw fish tastes like. I couldn't stop eating. Each dish that followed was even better. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I probably ate more than Lord Corinth. After dinner, Lord Corinth gestured toward my leg and made it clear we couldn't return to the road. I had suspected as much. My leg hasn't been healing well. He indicated that I'd need 15 to 20 days of rest. There's no helping it. I want to reach Gotanya soon, but I can't afford to damage my body further. If I pushed myself and lost the ability to walk again, I nodded. I'll wait the 20 days. Alan's perspective. Good. Claria understood. It's not even evening yet. Too early to sleep, too late to explore. There's a calm bent in the river right here, perfect for bathing. Honestly, I worked up quite a sweat yesterday, and I've been feeling grimy ever since. I gestured to Claria that I'd be bathing, and she nodded, her face flushed red. Why is she blushing? Well, she is at that age. I grabbed a fresh uniform and a towel cloth, lamenting the loss of my spare jumpsuit. As I undressed, I glanced at her, only to see her quickly turn away. I don't really mind if a kid sees me, but I get it. The river water felt amazing, cool and soothing. It was around 120 centimeters deep, just right. I dunked my head, wishing I had soap or shampoo. Maybe Claria has some. While I was at it, I washed my jumpsuit too. After 5 minutes, the chill set in. I got out, dried off, wrung out my underwear, and put it back on. Not ideal, but it'll dry. It felt strange to be in my formal uniform again after so many days in the jumpsuit. Claria finally turned around and stared, dumbfounded. Well, I guess this uniform does leave an impression. The Imperial Army redesigned it 5 years ago, for the first time in 150 years, hiring a renowned galactic designer. It turned out pretty stylish. I wonder, is Claria going to bathe too? Claria's perspective. Lord Corinth said something shocking. He was going to bathe right in front of me. But I reconsidered. This isn't the capital, and Lord Corinth isn't my subordinate. He's my travel companion, and free to do as he pleases. It'd be dangerous for us to separate anyway, with greyhounds still roaming. He must be enduring the embarrassment to protect me. That made me feel guilty. My weakness is making things harder for him. When he emerged from the river, I was stunned. Gone was the bizarre outfit from before. Instead, he wore black garments embroidered with silver and gold, clearly a military uniform. I'd never seen anything like it, but I knew instantly it was magnificent, almost divine in its elegance. Until now, I'd thought of him only as a nobleman, but someone who owned such garments, perhaps even a marquis or someone connected to royalty.
That depth of mystery, I could feel it again. I realized then I needed to bathe too, It had been 7 days, and my body was filthy, still stained with blood. I told Lord Corinth. He gestured for me to call out if anything happened. Then he turned his back. But first, he had to unbuckle my armor. 14 belts. He undid them all without hesitation, then helped me out of it. I was wearing an undershirt, so it wasn't a problem. He seemed very curious about the armor. I took my change of clothes to the river. While he examined the armor, I bathed. The water felt so good. I washed away the blood, the grime, the fatigue. I even cleaned my undershirt and clothes. I felt reborn. When I got out, I changed. Lord Corinth turned around, and his jaw dropped. Huh? I checked myself. Just half pants and a tunic. Normal enough. What's he so surprised about? Alan's perspective. So Claria is bathing. She's still covered in blood. She must have wiped some off, but there's still dried blood in her hair. She wants me to help with her armor? Sure. Whoa, that's a lot of belts. Her armor's surprisingly light, even the breastplate. What is this made of? Nanom? What? Nanom doesn't know? Please ingest a sample. Seriously? Well, I scraped off a minuscule piece. Believed to be a metal alloy. So even Nanom can't identify it. It looks like stainless steel, but is way too light. I'll ask Claria later. I polished the armor as an apology. When Claria returned, I was speechless. Who is this? She had bright brunette hair, radiant skin, striking blue eyes, a beauty to rival Miss Galaxy herself, just from bathing. Unreal. Women are terrifying. It was nearly evening, so we called it a day. I had Claria go to sleep, cleaned up, gathered firewood, and left Nanom on watch before sleeping. The next morning, I woke up at dawn. We had leftover meat and fish, so I grilled them for breakfast. Claria woke to the smell, eager as always. I skipped the raw fish this time. We still had some meat left, so I wrapped it in leaves for lunch. After we both took turns relieving ourselves, and I helped Claria into her armor, we set off. I'm thinking of setting up base further upstream, away from the road, near the river. There's something calming about riverside living. After walking for 3 hours, Nanom chimed in. There is a hole-like opening ahead. We found it between 2 massive boulders, a deep crevice, really. I had to crouch to enter, but inside, the ceiling opened up enough to stand. It was roomy, about 5 meters square. There was a gap near the ceiling, maybe 20 centimeters, so rain might seep in, but it would let sunlight through as well. All in all, pretty decent. Actually, it might be perfect. If we block the entrance, the defense would be solid. I gestured to Claria. She nodded in approval. All right, this is our spot. Now, how to block the entrance? Rocks? A makeshift fence? I went to scout. About 50 meters upstream, I found a good bathing pool and possibly more fish. No suitable materials, though. Wait. A thick fallen tree about 150 meters upriver. It was huge, at least 10 meters long. Too thick to cut easily, especially without tools. I hesitated, then took out my sword and let it drop onto the trunk. It sank in, without effort. I tried again with more force. Deeper still. It reminded me of that game, the one with the turtle boss. Weak attacks didn't count. You had to go all in or break your sword. That's where I developed the final blade technique. I couldn't help myself. Corinth-style swordsmanship, secret art, final blade. I focused, channeling my energy into the blade. Just kidding. Or not? The sword began to glow. Unknown, some kind of energy detected. Again? I swung lightly, and the tree split clean through. What? What is this? I showed it to Claria. She was more impressed by the cut than the sword. Huh, that's unexpected. Abnormal. Nanom agreed. That's enough for me. I rolled the cut log back to the base. It fit the entrance like a plug, leaving only a small gap. Perfect. I had Claria go inside and pulled the log in behind us. No monster is getting in now. I gestured to Claria. She nodded with a smile. Security achieved. It was almost 11 o'clock, so we had an early yakiniku bento. Cold, but still delicious.